Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Susan Valakis, and I'm the Training Development Coordinator at Now Foods. And as such, I bring you these webinars on the third Thursday of each month. And if you've missed any of them, you can find replays on our website at nowfoods.com/webinars or on our Now Foods YouTube channel. Today's webinar will be presented by one of Now's very own, Jim Golick. Jim is a certified and licensed dietitian nutritionist in Illinois. He's been in the industry for over 40 years and has a long history with Now Foods in both retail management and nutrition counseling, as well as in the corporate environment. He's currently part of the product information team at Now, where he answers questions and shares his vast knowledge with retailers, consumers, and practitioners from all around the world. If you have any questions regarding the information in today's presentation or about Now products in general, you can reach out to Jim or others in the Now Nutrition team at productinfo@nowfoods.com. And you'll see that right there on your screen. So if you want to jot it down, productinfo@nowfoods.com. So with that, please join me in welcoming Jim Golick for today's presentation. Welcome, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Welcome, everyone. So thanks to Neil, we're going to be talking about digestive and fiber products, which is quite a few products in our lineup. And Neil, of course, was nice enough to do lots of these slides. There's quite a few of them, so we're going to get right started on it. So we're going to have a brief overview here of the digestive system. I'll just let you take a look at that. We'll be covering more detail later. But let's do an overview of our gut barrier. So there is a barrier in our digestive system that forms a continuous barrier that protects the internal parts of the body from the fluctuating external parts of the body. And that helps to keep out foreign invaders and things that are undesirable in that regard. Substances known to disrupt this epithelial barrier that can lead to the shedding of epithelial cells and the development of digestive upsets can include dietary factors, food allergens, for example, gastrointestinal secretory products, and xenobiotics or foreign compounds that don't belong. Stomach acid is a digestive aid, so hydrochloric acid, that's abbreviation HCl. It's also an immune barrier. Immune system in the digestive tract targets undigested proteins as well as repels most live organisms. So it's like gauntlets that hopefully things won't pass. Let's talk about probiotic survival. We're not going to focus much on probiotics today since we've covered in the past, but there is a few things that we're going to talk about. In general, Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium and a few others, Streptococcus species, do not need enteric coating as they can survive passage through the stomach. However, yogurt type strains like Bulgaricus and Thermophilus don't survive passage through the stomach, and they do not colonize the intestinal tract, so they're not likely to have effect as probiotics. And an important thing to understand, the timing of probiotic supplementation either before or after eating did not affect its efficacy in a small trial, as you can see there. So it may not be all that important. I know many of our labels say to take it on an empty stomach or probiotics, but that may not be entirely necessary. So there is some leeway there. Let's get into the meat of the matter with enzymes. What do enzymes do? These are catalysts. So they increase the rate of a biochemical reaction using less energy than what is otherwise needed. They help to jumpstart reactions that might take days or weeks, if at all, to occur. So virtually every chemical process in the human body involves enzymes. Enzymes are our body's engineering, building, maintenance, and demolition crews, and are primarily protein-based. We're going to be getting into this in more detail. There are three basic categories of enzymes: metabolic, digestive, and food-based, like papaya or pineapple enzymes. So metabolic enzymes are the body's engineers and maintenance crew. They are necessary for the growth, maintenance, and repair of all tissues and organs. They're also essential for the disposal of microscopic debris and waste, keeping us clutter-free at the cellular level. Digestive enzymes are naturally produced by our bodies, as are metabolic enzymes. These specialized enzymes break down the food we eat into nutrients and waste and are responsible for the absorption and delivery of nutrients to target tissues and organs. Now, food-based enzymes or food enzymes are the only enzymes our body uses that are produced externally, except for digestive enzymes derived from animals, like pancreatin. They're obtained from raw foods and supplements, and they help the body's internally produced digestive enzymes break down the foods we eat in smaller bioavailable nutrients. We'll cover that in greater detail in a moment. Now, proteolytic enzymes or proteases are very important to properly break down protein into smaller individual amino acids or dipeptides and tripeptides, which we'll cover in a moment. So there are different proteases secreted by glands in the stomach and pancreas that act at different pH levels throughout the intestinal tract. So if one has a certain protease that can work in an acid environment like the stomach, it's going to be active in the stomach, maybe less active in the small intestine, but conversely, other proteases that are more active at a higher pH rate would be not active in the stomach, but active in the small intestine, which is more alkaline. So because proteins are such complicated molecules, it takes a long time and more than one enzyme to completely break them down into amino acids, which we'll be talking about in a moment. So digestion is obtained by the action of stomach acid, which requires a low pH, in enzymes both in the stomach and intestines, like pancreatic protease, which that particular enzyme would operate in a more alkaline environment. In the acidic environment of the stomach, the negatively charged side chains are removed by pepsin. And pepsin is actually in the stomach what helps to unwind the proteins and breaks the bonds between the amino acids in certain places. So the hydrochloric acid is there to provide the proper pH framework for the pepsin to be active. In the small intestine, other enzymes break the bonds between different amino acids than pepsin. So you have a more alkaline environment, as I mentioned. Positively charged side chains are removed by pancreatic trypsin. We'll have some pictures that will help us to understand this in a moment. So a brief overview, beginning in the upper right-hand section, protein digestion is begun by hydrochloric acid and the enzyme pepsin. And then protein digestion enzymes are secreted from the pancreas into the small intestine, and most of the work is done in the small intestine. Final digestion of dipeptides and tripeptides, which we'll cover in a moment, two amino acids occurs inside the intestines, and then individual amino acids enter the blood and travel to the liver. The liver regulates the distribution of amino acids to the rest of the body. And there's just a little bit lost in the feces. So plant enzymes, or again proteases, can also digest protein in a wide range of pH. So they don't have to be as specific as pepsin, for instance, to help compensate for low stomach acid. And there's also oral pancreatic enzymes that we have, like in pancreatin, can inhibit our own production of pancreatin, especially if they're overused in large quantities. So it's something to be aware of. It may not be an issue with small amounts like we have in super enzymes. Could be more of an issue using more than a few of the pancreatin. Now, plant enzymes don't compensate for other essential functions of stomach acid, such as the acidic immune barrier that we talked about, the environment to promote acidophilus. Keep in mind that the word acidophilus literally means acid loving. So these bacteria are well geared towards survival in stomach acid. The bioavailability of nutrients from food and supplements is also dependent upon the stomach acid, such as vitamins like vitamin B12, non-chelated minerals, etc. Digestion results in about 60% small peptides or peptide-bound amino acids, which are chains of 2 to 3 amino acids. And dipeptide, of course, means 2, tripeptide means 3, and about 40% free amino acids or free form. So when some people ask about what's a free form amino acids, that's a free unbound amino acids, not bound to any other compound or any other amino acid. So peptides can be further broken down by hydrolysis in enterocytes, which are intestinal cells. So here's a good example of a simplified view of an amino acid. Now, look at the bottom left-hand section where we have backbone listed. So the backbone is the same for all amino acids, but you have other components, an amine group and an acid group, a la amino acid, and then a side chain which can differ from one amino acid to the next. Over on the right, we have examples of different types of amino acid structures that can be bound in various ways that help when put together to form a protein. Now, look at the top center where it says large peptides. Those, as you can see with the arrow pointing away from the intestinal lumen, showing that large chunks of protein cannot pass through the intestinal lumen to get into the bloodstream. They have to be first broken down either into small peptides, which would be represented by the number 3, and or amino acids represented by the number 2. Now, in the intestines, the peptides represented by the number 4 can be further, peptides can be further broken down into individual amino acids. Bottom line is one can get and should get in an ideally working digestive system, small either free amino acids or tripeptides into the bloodstream where they can be used. Now, here's another example of protein digestion. Notice that up at the top, chymotrypsin is represented by kind of like a rough arrow. Carboxypeptidase, another type of protease enzyme, represented more like, looks like home plate. But you'll see there's different shapes to different protein structures. You see some that are squares, some that are circles. So different enzymes have different affinities for certain specific bonds. So they are only specialized in certain areas where they can work. So you need a number of them, different ones working in different regions to help break things down. Eventually get down to the individual amino acids and tripeptides, which are shown in the bottom of the screen, and then the amino acids enter into the bloodstream. So now we're going to switch to carbohydrate digestion. Amylase converts carbohydrates into simple sugars to be used by the body, primarily for energy, but also structurally, as in glucosamine, which is literally a glucose and an amine or an amino acid compound. So amylase is also present in saliva, so it begins the digestive process of carbohydrate digestion while we're chewing. It's also a pancreatic enzyme found in pancreatin, so it's produced by fermentation for supplement forms. So we can have carbohydrate digestion that can take the form of starch digestion, which is a number of different glucose molecules, starting the process with amylase, breaks it down into maltose, which is 2 glucose molecules. Another carbohydrate digestion enzyme, alpha-glucosidase, will help to break that down further into glucose, which then gets into blood vessels and can raise blood glucose levels. So sucrose, which is table sugar, consists of glucose and fructose over there on the right-hand section, and also broken down into glucose and fructose, which it can also affect blood glucose levels, of course, too. Glucose does that certainly more than fructose. Fructose does not have much of an impact on blood sugar. Okay, so how does starch enter the bloodstream? Again, complex starch molecules are shown at the top of that picture. They are broken down into smaller particles of starch and then into subsequent individual glucose molecules. Now we're going to talk about fat digestion. Lipase processes fats, oils, and triglycerides. Since fat is not water soluble, it requires special digestive processing before it can be absorbed and utilized by your body. Also, lipase facilitates the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like A and D and E and K, as well as carotenoids like lutein and astaxanthin and curcumin and quercetin even. So it's very important to get lipase working properly for our system. So there's a number of factors involved in fat digestion. Dietary fat, pancreatic lipase helps. Those spheres that are showing are known as micelles, which are a water-enveloped fat compound. So the red dots represent a water transport mechanism that holds the fatty structures inside. Those are broken down and eventually into individual fatty acids that are transported, well, not only into the gut, but into the lymphatic system. So now we're going to get into our actual product line, supplemental digestive enzymes. Now, Neil has this chart that he's developed. He said it's a work in progress, so we'll be perhaps adding to it over time. What it helps to show is that enzymes of various kinds digest different things, carbohydrates and proteases and fats, lipases. They are oftentimes derived from fungi like Aspergillus niger or Oryzae and some others. Or if you go halfway down that list, you'll see Nattokinase from fermented soy, or pancreatin, which comes from porcine or pork pancreas, and papain, which provides pepsin, which comes from papaya, of course, etc. But also notice under ABBR column, which is abbreviation, there are different enzyme nomenclatures used for different types of enzymes based on certain specific criteria. I'm going to just pick one here. The second one on the list, Bromelain, you'll see GDU, that stands for gelatin digesting units. So that is how the strength of bromelain is determined in terms of its enzyme power, so to speak. There are other enzymes that will use different nomenclatures. Pancreatin universally uses USP, which is United States Pharmacopoeia in that regard, but I'm not going to go into more of this in the interest of time, but just to help you understand that there's scientists that have determined these units, and sometimes people ask, well, how can I convert this enzyme designation into the enzyme found in pancreatin? Well, it's not that easy. It's apples and oranges comparison. So let's talk about plant enzymes. This also covers not only our plant enzymes, but optimal digestive system and digest platinum. Now, these have the advantage of working in a wide pH range. So they can begin digesting fats and carbs in the stomach rather than waiting for pancreatic enzymes to begin working in the intestine, which takes, well, over an hour after you've eaten a meal before that even starts to kick in. So you can get a head start with some of these enzymes on digestion before that has to work. Now, we can also have animal-derived enzymes such as betaine hydrochloride and pepsin that we've talked about before. That helps work in the stomach to digest minerals and proteins. But the pepsin, as I mentioned earlier, requires a very acidic environment to function. Now, pancreatin works in the small intestine to help absorb protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Again, it has proteases, which digest protein, lipase, which digests fats, and amylase, which digests starches. Now, bromelain is a proteolytic enzyme or protein digesting enzyme from the stem of a pineapple plant. And when taken with food, it helps support healthy digestion. However, neat thing about bromelain is that when you take it between meals, it can help support joint comfort and relieve temporary soreness associated with muscle overuse. So it becomes a metabolic enzyme in that regard. So there have been times when I've advised people to take their bromelain between meals and in between meals, like maybe 6 times a day, depending on what's going on with them. to help in 2 different ways. And papaya is a proteolytic enzyme, and it contains papain. So it's a member of the papain family of cysteine proteinases, cysteine being, as we all know, an amino acid, and that also includes bromelain and a number of others. So we have papaya enzymes that are chewable. Again, there's 2 ways of measuring an enzyme. One is the various units of measurement, such as the USP units or the GD units that are listed here, but also the amount of each one. You know, if you had a 10 milligrams or 100 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams of one of these enzymes, that would make a big difference in terms of the overall strength of determination of that enzyme. So this is a good, basic enzyme to start off with that some people find quite effective. We do suggest per 2 lozenges at a meal. Then we have plant enzymes, which is vegetarian suitable. It supports digestion. We've had this product in our line for at least 20 years, perhaps longer. It's a good basic enzyme. You'll see that it has not only 2 different kinds of proteases that work in different pH ranges, but also the papain and the bromelain at the bottom. So there's 4 enzymes for digestion of protein, along with amylase for the starch digestion, the lipase, cellulase, which helps break down fibers, and lactase for lactose milk sugar. Then we have chewyzymes, which is the BioCore system by NEC that supports digestion, and it was shown to have efficacy throughout the entire pH range in a study done in the Netherlands, and it's not degraded by acid in the stomach. So nice thing about this is that it can be used for adults and kids, and again, 2 chewables is what's recommended, but 1 serving, which is 2 lozenges, is equal to 1 capsule of our popular optimal digestive system, which we're going to talk about now. So notice that 2 capsules is what's recommended for the optimal digestive system. If no one has ever had experience with this, it's a small size capsule. So people that might wonder, like, which of your enzymes capsules are smallest, this would be it in that regard. That's why it takes 2 of them. But some people might get by with 1, depending on what they're eating and how much they eat. But 2 is generally what we recommend for that. Also helps with bean and cabbage digestion, some of the flatulence that people might get, for instance. Excuse me 1 moment. Okay. Then we have our Ultimate Digest Ultimate. It's a most potent combination of digestive enzymes produced through the controlled fermentation of select microbial species, mostly fungi, that's stable throughout the pH range of the GI tract, from the acid environment of the stomach to the alkaline environment of the small intestine. So it does help to optimize nutrient absorption by assisting in the breakdown of protein and carbohydrates and fats, as well as dairy and grains, and even indigestible fibers found in foods such as vegetables and beans. So it does cost more than some of the other enzyme products that we have, but there's more in it. So you get what you pay for in that regard. So here's an example here. We have, beyond the amylase, we have protease 4.5 and 6.0, which, and the acid stable protease 3.0. So those are working in different pH ranges of the stomach and small intestine. And you can also notice at the bottom, neutral bacterial protease, another protein digestion enzyme in there as well. And bromelain is also in there in the middle. And again, many enzymes to help digest a variety of food sources. And one of our standbys, popular product, betaine hydrochloride with acid stable protease. This is a vegetarian product. We switched to this maybe about 5 or so years ago when we had previously had an animal-based pepsin, but the acid stable protease, fungal pepsin, has been shown to be efficacious 1-to-1 with pepsin derived from animal sources. And this chart here at the bottom shows that roughly a 2.5 pH, which is generally stomach pH, is where it's going to have its highest degree of activity. So optimally, somewhere between 2 and 3 roughly is where most of that enzyme activity will occur. And pancreatin is pancreatic enzymes that have a mixture again of lipase, amylase, and protease enzymes. Again, the units of activity are based on USP units, and it's quite strong, 50,000 for the amylase and protease and 4,000 for lipase. And the 10x indicates that it's a full strength, uncut, undiluted pancreatin. So the 2,000 that we say on our front label is equivalency. So if you took 200 milligrams, which is the actual weight of the powder in the capsule, at a 10x strength, voila, doing the simple math, 2,000 milligrams. Super enzymes, one of probably our best-selling enzyme product, is a comprehensive blend of enzymes that supports healthy digestion, formulated with bromelain and ox bile, pork pancreatin, and papain. Helps to optimize the breakdown of fats, carbohydrates, and protein, available in capsule or tablet form. And there are some differences between these, so let's talk about that. So this is more going to work in a narrow pH range. There's not as much betaine hydrochloride in one of these as there would be in our separate betaine hydrochloride capsules. So the papain, or the acid-stable protease, aspergillopepsin in here, is going to be somewhat active, but notice that the pancreatin, it's 11x, which is also full strength, is a little less activity than the 50,000 that we talked about with the pancreatin earlier, but still very substantial amount of carbohydrate and protein digestion in that regard. Of course, rounded off by ox bile extract, which helps in the emulsification of fats. That helps to start the process before fat digestion gets further enhanced by pancreatic lipase. Ox bile helps in the preparing of fats into smaller emulsions that allow it to work better. And then we have the tablet version. Notice, if you will, that there's 20,000 USP units of amylase and protease versus 37,000 in the capsule version. So capsule version would have more power, I guess you could say, compared to the tablet version, but they're both quite helpful for most people. Now, this particular product does not contain the fungal protease, the fungal the acid-stable protease, the aspergillopepsin, as a capsules. It contains the pepsin itself from animal sources. So both of these products, of course, are not intended for vegetarians, and because of the pork in them, not intended for people that are following kosher or halal practices either. Okay. Oops, I'm a little too far ahead of myself. Gluten Digest supports gastrointestinal health by containing a very helpful BioCore DPP4 enzyme, which helps digest gluten and difficult to digest proteins in cereal grains in particular. So it does help to increase the number of digestible gluten particles by 177%, as you can see there on the chart on the right. So it is a unique enzyme complex derived from fungal proteases that specifically targets the digestion of gluten. Now, it's intended to support digestion of small amounts of gluten that might be eaten inadvertently. So it can help improve digestion of gluten-containing foods, but it's not intended for use in individuals that have actual celiac disease or severe gluten allergies, unless their physician or practitioner is advising them otherwise. So it's an important thing to know. It is a very popular product, and it does help a lot of people. Well, let's talk about lactose intolerance. Lactose, of course, is a sugar found in milk. 30 to 50 million Americans suffer from dairy intolerance. And if you're lactose intolerant, and typically deficient in lactase, and it's an enzyme needed to break down lactose during digestion. So as we age, the enzyme to digest lactose may decline due to aging, post-adolescence in particular, or genetics, or damage to GI tract, or temporary factors like diet, illness, or stress. And the element sulfur, interestingly, is essential for our body's natural production of lactase enzyme. So it helps to activate lactase production if we're able to restore our ability to digest lactose. So now, lactose intolerance can occur for genetic reasons in people that don't have the biological ancestry of adult milk consumption, Native Americans being some of those, people of Asian and South American descent, and some people of African descent, although that does vary because there are some African tribes that still to this day have been dairy herders through the centuries, and they seem to do well on certain of those on milk consumption. So again, depends. And of course, in Northern Europe, Finnish people may or may not have that capacity as well. So severity is often related to how much lactose is consumed and when. So if one has the symptoms, it's going to be likely gas, bloating, flatulence, stomach rumbling, abdominal pain, diarrhea, etc. After consumption of dairy products. So it can, again, affect people starting their teen years or earlier, and then increase with severity with age. So milk products also contain high levels of protein and fat. So in order to digest the lactose, the protein, and the fat found in dairy products, the body needs an ample supply of a number of different types of enzymes. Lactase, which again is more specific than amylase for the digestion of the milk sugar, in proteases and lipase. So Dairy Digest Complete, designed to help digest, for instance, the equivalent of a whole cup of milk. That would include not only the lactose, but also the protein and the fat. So this would be more complete and comprehensive than a equivalent type of product on the market like Lactate enzyme or similar ones like that. So people may benefit from this if they didn't do well on just a simple milk sugar lactase type enzyme. Probiotics versus lactose intolerance. Probiotic bacteria support lactose digestion and can temporarily alleviate symptoms of intolerance via beta-galactosidase in the milk product or delayed gastrointestinal transit, and having positive effects on intestinal functions and the microflora in the colon, and can help with reduced sensitivity to symptoms. Now we're going to talk about metabolic enzymes, supplements. Nattokinase, proteolytic enzyme from natto, which is a fermented soy food. So clinical studies demonstrate that it is a specialized protease that can help promote heart and circulatory health by maintaining healthy levels of fibrin, which is a type of protein involved in proper blood clotting and normal wound healing. So fibrin is important when we cut our skin, and we want our blood to clot, so we don't, bleed out. And it's an important process, but excess fibrin can be an issue inside our system. So this nattokinase listed here. That's all I'm going to say about that. Something somewhat similar, serrapeptase is a proteolytic enzyme isolated from bacteria found in silkworms. This is one of our newer products that we introduced earlier this year. And then we have Serrazymes, which I understand someone had mentioned last week that it's being discontinued. Haven't had a chance to confirm that, but if that is true, then serrapeptase would be, again, I guess in a similar vein, but a stronger alternative. but not vegetarian since it comes from silkworms, at least not vegan, I should say. So both these enzymes have similar activity that acts systemically to maintain a balanced immune system response by helping to break down protein-based immune cell secretions. So it can help vascular and respiratory health by supporting natural processes for drainage and repair. So you notice the serrapeptase on the left has 60,000 units of activity versus the serozymes has 20,000 units of activity. Now our serrapeptase label does mention not for long-term use after 30 days, except under a physician's supervision, so something to be aware of. Again, there's so many people with so many different things going on with them and taking either lots of supplements or even medications. It would be something that we want people to be properly advised and properly followed so they can have benefit without potentially doing something that might be detrimental. So let's talk about dietary fiber. Very important, also referred to as roughage or bulk. It's a part of a plant that cannot be digested or absorbed by the body. So as most of us know, dietary fiber exists in generally soluble and insoluble forms. Soluble fiber is dissolvable in water and is fermented by bacteria in the colon. So it can be found in oat bran, apples, citrus fruits, pears, beans, peas, potatoes, seeds, oranges, and grapefruit, and especially psyllium. Now, insoluble fiber cannot be dissolved in water. It's not affected by bacteria in the colon. It does form bulk, and it's found in things like wheat bran, corn bran, nuts, cabbage, and root vegetables. So animal products such as meat, fish, eggs, or dairy do not contain fiber, so it's an important thing when people are on a ketogenic diet, for instance, which is emphasizing fats and proteins and virtually nothing of a grain nature. It is important that people get supplemental forms of fibers for helping to support their body and colonic health. A prebiotic is a soluble dietary fiber or other non-digestible substance that feeds and nourishes existing gut microflora, which helps to maintain the health of the cells lining the GI tract. In addition, dietary fiber helps your body detoxify by adhering to toxins that are secreted into the digestive tract so they can be more easily eliminated. Very, very important. Now, we have a number of prebiotics, and let's define it first. A non-digestible food ingredient that beneficially affects the host by selectively stimulating the growth and or activity of one or limited number of bacteria in the colon. Now, prebiotics are short chain or resistant carbohydrates that typically resist digestion by gastric acid and pancreatic enzymes, but can be fermented further down in the colon by bifidobacteria and lactobacilli, probiotic bacteria in the large intestine. Now, the gut microbiota is greatly responsive to dietary changes in adulthood. For instance, bifidobacteria increases in the presence of inulin type fructans like FOS, for instance, or inulin. This increase occurs within a few days, but also rapidly disappears upon withdrawal of the prebiotic compounds. So I like to think of this as like fertilizer for your grass in the spring. It helps form a nice lush lawn. You have a big nice lush lawn full of nice thick carpet of thick grass with deep roots, less likely for weeds to grow in your lawn. So you can have a similarly functioning, robust gastrointestinal system with prebiotics helping the maintenance and growth of our probiotics. So pure inulin can be extracted from plants such as Jerusalem artichoke, chicory, or agave, and may be certified organic. Agave is a source for our inulin. Nutriflora FOS produced by natural fermentation of sucrose from non-GMO sources such as sugarcane. Both are prebiotics to provide probiotic support, and the difference is largely sourcing and processing rather than the actual composition. Now, prebiotics also can be helpful for improving mineral absorption, such as calcium in particular. So that can help directly into metabolism and bone composition and architecture. Now, one of our top sellers, Psyllium Husk, blonde psyllium, contains a high level of soluble dietary fiber and is a chief ingredient in some commonly used bulk laxatives. Derived from the seed husks of Plantago ovata, commonly found in India and the Mediterranean. India leads the world in psyllium production. So it does form a viscous gel in the intestines. Anyone who has used it knows what I'm talking about. It gels up pretty darn fast. It has a bulking effect, so it does swell up quite a bit from the water that you put it into. Also helps absorb fats to reduce systemic absorption and delays the digestion and absorption of carbohydrates. So it does have beneficial effects on glucose and on cholesterol, potentially. Psyllium husk, soluble fiber from foods such as psyllium seed husks as part of a diet low in saturated fat and cholesterol may reduce the risk of heart disease. Now, this is an FDA qualified health claim. So a 10-gram serving of whole psyllium husks provides 6 grams of the 7 grams of soluble fiber necessary per day to have this effect. So we do have the whole psyllium husks, certified organic, high in soluble fiber, 6 grams per serving. Notice that it's 2 level tablespoons versus our powder, which is 1. And that's simply because this is a lighter weight, fluffier material, so you need a couple tablespoons of this compared to a tablespoon of the others. Always important that people start slowly, take less, start with less to get your system used to it and gradually increase the amount over a period of time. Fiber 3 is a nice product. It contains flax, acacia, and inulin. It's psyllium free. It's high in soluble fiber, about a 50-50 ratio with insoluble fiber, and you can get 4 grams of fiber per 2.5 tablespoon serving. And organic acacia powder is harvested from the acacia tree, which is in Africa, Pakistan, India. It acts as a prebiotic, supports the microorganisms, and promotes a healthy GI environment. So it's generally well tolerated. It's pretty, it's easily mixable. It's virtually tasteless and very easy compound. Then we have apple fiber, which contains 5 grams of fiber per tablespoon, one of those grams being soluble fiber. And this comes from primarily Fuji, Delicious, Brayburn, and Honeycrisp apples from US, like Washington State and Canada area. It's also a very nice product too. And we have apple pectin. Now, apple pectin is not going to be coming from the skin of an apple. It's a water-soluble compound. It's from the inner apple core, not the core, but the inner apple itself. But it is a specialized kind of a compound, so it has to be extracted through water and alcohol to get it operational in that regard. Then we have glucomannan, which is a soluble bulk-forming fiber derived from konjac root that can help maintain intestinal regularity. It also can be helpful in maintaining healthy lipid levels in the healthy range, and helps if you take it maybe half hour, 45 minutes before a meal by creating a feeling of fullness so that one hopefully feels like eating less at their meal. And so it has a variety of uses in that regard. There are some competing products on the market that are heavily advertised. Then we've been selling this product for 30 years or better, and it's still a popular product, but some other products. Some of the companies may market theirs in a different way and sell more of it, but it's probably the same thing as some other products in the market. Prebiotic fiber with Fibersol. Now this is interesting. This contains a corn-based maltodextrin, which is processed to make it digestion resistant. Normally maltodextrin is short sugar lengths, sugar chains that are easily broken down into sugar in the body, but this is digestion resistant. It's been processed in a way to make it not break down in the stomach or the small intestines, so it helps to provide more management to the intestinal flora. So it's from non-GMO corn. It can help create a feeling of fullness for up to 2 hours after eating, and can help maintain healthy normal glucose levels too, and a healthy intestinal tract as well. And now we have aloe vera gels, always a perennial popular item. Aloe vera offers a variety of nutrients, including vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and amino acids. Now those amino acids are also known as mucopolysaccharides, which are actually more sugar compounds, or known as glycosaminoglycans, which is a combination of sugars and aminos, or GAGs, thought to be its active components. So scientific studies have indicated that aloe can help support the body's own healing processes and support a healthy digestive system. So it's a very perennial favorite. Aloe 10,000 Probiotics combines, of course, our 10-strain probiotic blend with the aloe vera, so you can get a 1-2 combination there. That's very helpful. Then we have DGL and aloe. DGL is known as deglycerinated licorice. It's a form of licorice root that had been specially processed to remove glycyrrhizin, which is an undesirable compound, thereby enriching the biologically active compounds that help maintain a healthy lining in the stomach and intestines. Combining that with aloe vera is a good combination. Also interesting, aloe vera has been shown to help aid vitamin E absorption. That's demonstrated by the red line at the top with aloe versus the blue line, which is the vitamin E without the aloe. Quite a dramatic difference in that regard. And also, aloe vera has been shown to also dramatically increase the level of vitamin C absorption as well. So, neat concept to consider in that regard. Then we have Gastro Comfort, formulated to support a healthy stomach lining. This replaces our original Ulcitrol tablet formula that we used to have, which was popular. This is similar. So it still contains the pepsin GI, a form of zinc, carnosine, that has been shown to support the healthy integrity of the stomach lining and support and promote its own natural healing processes. Also contains mastic gum, which is a resin from the mastic tree that has been traditionally used to maintain gastric health. It also contains slippery elm and aloe vera to support a healthy digestive system. And we also have acid relief with enzymes. So this is a complete digestive enzyme, but also contains calcium carbonate as a neutralizing agent. So quite often, 45 minutes or so after a meal, a person may start to develop a little heartburn or something. Well, they might grab something, a calcium carbonate-based product like a Tums or something like that, which is what calcium carbonate is found in Tums. But calcium carbonate does neutralize acid in the stomach, but this product goes beyond that. It actually helps provide enzymes to aid the digestion of the food, which is a unique advantage to this. So it can be more and better way perhaps to get that process done. So it goes again beyond typical antacids, delivering rapid relief from indigestion and delicious chewable tablet. And you notice some of the same types of enzymes we talked about earlier in that formulation. Then we have peppermint gels. Now these are enteric-coated, so they're going to delay the release for an hour or two in the intestines and deliver it further down, the peppermint down into the bowels. So it can provide relief from occasional minor bowel discomfort. So it contains mostly peppermint oil with smaller amounts of ginger oil and fennel oils. Then we have activated charcoal, which is something we came out with, about a couple of years ago at the most, made from coconut shells. And it's been traditionally used to support healthy digestive function. Now, charcoal has quite a large porous texture mass, so it can tract a lot and trap a lot of toxins that are typically present in the GI tract. So it can help to alleviate uncomfortable gas and bloating caused by gas-producing foods as well. So it's been kind of an old standby in medicine chests for a long time, and this can be helpful to have around. May not necessarily be needed to be taken on an ongoing regular basis for months and months, but can be helpful for more limited use perhaps, and help in detox programs. So that's it for now, and thank you again, Neil, for your wonderful slides.
All right, and thank you, Jim, for an excellent presentation. Good information, and one of my favorite subjects, digestive health.
Amen.
What do they say? Health begins in the gut, right?
Yep, right. It's an old adage in naturopathic medicine: if you don't know what to do with a patient, start with the gut.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's that. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and thanks, Jim, for a great presentation.
Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everybody.